Hello and welcome to a very special Breeders' Cup preview show. Really looking forward to the action at Keeneland this year. All the action on ITV and Sky Sports are readily available and at a decent time as well for a European audience. You can see I've been joined by Paul Quigley, Sky Sports' US racing expert, and later on we'll hear from Jason Wever as well on the European contingent, a strong grading party at this year's Breeders' Cup. And Paul Rickerby will run through the races and get his thoughts as well on his fancies for two cracking nights of action at Keeneland. We'll start with you though, Paul. I mean, is this like your Christmas, Olympics and World Cup rolled into one, isn't it? But everyone asks you, like they do for everybody else in racing, the Grand National, what's going to win the National? Yeah, everyone asks you what's going to win at the Breeders' Cup.
It's a difficult one, Matt. I remember 2017, Stormy Liberal, I think it was 40 or 50 to 1, I tipped it up, and everyone thinks you can do it every year. You know, it's, as you know, winner find is very hard. But I always like to show me working out. That's the important thing.
That's good in exams, they are as well. Harry Redknapp's favourite US racing pundit here. That's what you're well known as, isn't it?
I am. I go back a long time. My first Breeders' Cup memory would be Miesk winning back-to-back miles, probably in the late 80s. First one I attended was at Belmont in 2001. I backed Johannesburg, who won on the dirt there for Aidan O'Brien. And then we were all on Saki, who's run the Arc, and that Tisdale came and ran us down. He ran down the Giants Causeway the year after. That Tisdale owes me some money.
Yeah, he's not got many memories, but there is Breeders' Cup ones there. But let's join Paul Rickerby then for the first time to run through Friday and Saturday's cards for us at Keeneland.
Here, it's going to be Friday evening. It all gets underway at 7 o'clock. And what a race to start the 2 nights of fantastic action at Keeneland. We'll start with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint. Now, everybody's nut, as far as Team Europe are concerned, is the Platinum Queen. But unfortunately, she's got stall 12, which isn't ideal. And of course, she's meeting a couple of horses who she ran against in the Queen Mare who were dramatised, who could be a bit of a surprise package here for Carl Burke coming out with stall 4. And the one I really like is Love Reigns, who ran very, very well at Royal Ascot and is based in Keeneland. So I think Wes Ward could well be winning this race again. But what a start to 2 fantastic nights of action. We're getting underway with the Juvenile Turf Sprint. Fingers crossed, of course, the Platinum Queen and dramatised. Team Europe were 5 in that race. Of course, it's all about the turf races for us, the Europeans, on night 1. We've got the Juvenile Fillies turf there, where Meditate will be a popular selection for Aidan O'Brien. He could be hard to beat in the race, but I like Delight for Jonathan Thomas. And Louis Sayers, if you're looking for a jockey who rides the course really well, he's a very good jockey and he's got a top chance on Delight in that race. And we'll finish with the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, where Team Europe has a strong hand in this race as well. Silver Knot, who was impressive winning at Newmarket last time out, tries to keep that fantastic record up of Charlie Appleby and William Buick, and it's a warm order to win the lucky last on day 1. Let's move on to day 2. It's a Saturday. 9 Group 1 races, or if they say it in America, 9 Grade 1 races on the Saturday. Gets underway with 350, but the main focus for me anyway is the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint, the Grade 1. Can Golden Pal win it again? Won last year, of course, in Del Mar. Won at Keeneland as a 2-year-old. The year before, of course, in the 2-year-old race. He's going to be hard to beat, but God, she's the biggest improver ever, isn't she? Highfield Princess. Multiple Group 1 winner. She goes there for Jason Norton, John Quinn with a massive chance, and she's got stall 6. It was the stall that Glass Slippers won back in 2020. So could it be lucky for the Europeans with Highfield Princess? She's going to take a lot of English money and a lot of Irish punts as well over there to Keeneland. And she could be the one to put it up to Golden Pal. We've got, of course, Nashwa in action in the Fillies and Mares as well. She'll be popular with Holly Doyle on board. And then the last race of the Breeders' Cup is the Classic. And if you've not seen this horse, just watch him. Flightline. 5 runs, 5 wins. He's won by over 63 lengths in his 5 races, and he's just an absolute monster, and he's going to be very, very hard to beat. I'll be asking myself the question, who's going to be second? Life is Good, top-class horse. Epicenter, top-class horse. What about Hot Rod Charlie, the big price, getting into the frame? But listen, if you want to see the American Frankel, it's the last race on Saturday night. It's the Breeders' Cup Classic. I'm so looking forward to seeing Flightline in action. He's currently, as I speak, 2 to 5. And I tell you what, I think it's an absolute steal. 2 nights of fantastic racing. Enjoy this year's Breeders' Cup.
Yeah, cheers, Paul. Looking forward to it. 9:40 on Saturday. As I mentioned, the final Breeders' Cup race, Flightless, what they're all talking about. He said the American Franco, the Yank Franco. I think we can don him. He's the one everyone's talking about after what he did in the Pacific Classic, isn't he?
Yeah, and he was very good before that in the Met Mile back in New York. 5 for 5 lifetime. On saying that, do you remember a couple of weeks we were talking about Bayard, And
yeah, it's true. Yeah,
they've still got to win these races, haven't they? Now, should be exciting. Watched him go. He is a special horse.
Right, we'll find out what Paul fancies in the Classic later on. We'll get all Paul's thoughts on the dirt races as well. And we'll get his thoughts on the American contingent for the turf races. But with such a strong European raiding party, I thought it was only wise to get Jason Weaver's take on all the turf races. So let's see what former Classic winning jockey and now ITV racing pundit, who's done some stints over in America as well, what he fancies for the races on the turf at Keeneland at this year's Breeders' Cup.
I would like to be joined by Jason. Of course, we're looking forward to the Breeders' Cup. And Jason, you've been out in America previously, had some stints out there. I mean, what's it like both being out there? How do the Americans treat the Breeders' Cup, and how did you find it?
Yeah, well, we often call it the Thoroughbred World Championships, and I think it's very much worthy of that. From a rider's perspective, growing up, it was where you wanted to be. It's what you wanted to be successful at. And Frankie Dettori has done super for our riders out there as we class him one of our own. You've got a Kieran Fallon who's always spoke about the highlights out there, and some of the amazing riders that will go head to head. Buick being crowned champion for the very first time. He's got a whole boatload of opportunities out there. Holly Doyle needs no introduction herself, has some very, very good rides over the 2 days. So, look, and there are some wonderful stories as well. The likes of Tyler's Tribe, who's been winning at one of the lesser tracks, if you like, over in America, but comes in bringing a perfect record. It has everything. It has the best pedigrees. It has the best riders, the best jockeys. Now all we need is a real perfect racetrack, and Keeneland is pretty much good for us.
And we're going to look at all the turf races with yourself. I mean, the times are friendly for European audience, of course, all the races on ITV and Sky, so they're readily available. It's a real strong European challenge this year.
Yeah, we go there very much mob-handed. In a few of the races, we do tend to feel that they're a given. However, we should never underestimate the Americans. There have been some amazing turn-ups in the past. I was lucky enough to watch Arazzi win, but Bertrando had taken all before him out in California and was going to be the superstar. There you go, you get the turn-up. When it's talking about the turf races, though, we tend to be that little bit better. How good as well from a natural point of perspective. There is no race day medication as far as the runners are concerned. That is a fantastic move forward, and all of the horsemen have been abiding by the rules. So, the racing just gets better.
It certainly does. Let's get stuck into it then. It all gets underway Friday night with the Juveniles. And one of the main hopes, of course, is the Platinum Queen in the Juvenile Turf Sprint. But have her hopes been totally dashed by the widest stall of all?
Yeah, it's not great being posted out where she is in stall number 12, and there will be plenty in there. The likes of Lady Hollywood, who's going to ping along in front. She probably shouldn't be good enough. Love Reigns, who locks horns again with Dramatized, who she was behind her in the Queen Mary. And Carl Burke, he was at an absolute loss when she got beaten in the Lowther. So we could expect to see a much improved display from her. Ryan Moore is on board. Remember, don't get all the added weight allowance out here. Our boys will be working hard as far as a few of the weights are concerned. 8 stone 7, be really, really tight as far as Ryan is concerned. We don't get him smiling over here on a good day. Imagine what he's like when he's had to work extra hard to do that foil in the bag weight. I swear to God, he'll be fit and firing and raring to go. You want him on your side. I have to say that Persian Force has been a horse that I've followed really closely this season. I do believe that he's going to end up going to the Stallion Shed at the end of his juvenile campaign, which I can understand because he's a small, compact, powerful runner. Frankie Dettori gets on board. He's got a middle stall position. I would imagine he may struggle if he didn't get the absolute dream run round. I just think it's going to be hard, even though Richard Fahey said 12 is his lucky number.
There we are. Do we stick with Persian Force?
Yeah, I think Persian Force will give you a real good run for your money. He's very, very solid. He's well travelled. He seems to take everything in his stride. And yeah, he with a Dettori on board, I think could be really potent around there from a middle draw.
Yeah, it could be a good start for the Europeans. Move on to the next turf race then with you, Jason. The Juvenile Fillies turf. But Aidan O'Brien has got Meditate, who's run some cracky races on here on these shows. Joseph's got Basil Martini. And of course, we've got the unbeaten oh-so short winner for Richard Fahey, Midnight Mile. Is this one coming back over the Atlantic or is it staying at home?
Yeah, probably going to be a little bit more difficult for us in here. I mean, Meditate has been going through the gears really, really well. The second in the Moy Glare, second in the Cheveley Park to the Zoo. She's an Albany winner, and she steps up in distance, which may well suit her around here. Of the home contingent, I'm pretty much fascinated with Pleasant Passage because she comes from a really, really good outfit of the Shug McGahey team. Irad Ortiz on board, and she hasn't quite looked the finished article as yet. I know that Midnight Mile, she's going to be hitting the line strong, and you mentioned Joseph Runner as well. But I've just got a sneaking feeling that something like a Pleasant Passage, wonderful pedigree, comes from a really, really strong barn, and she's got a good stall position. I know it's not vital over this trip, but it certainly is better to be in the middle where she is.
Maybe one for the home team there. Then the last Juvenile race on Friday is the Juvenile Turf, and we've seen Wood Charlie Appleby and the boys in blue clean up in many of the races stateside this year. They've got plenty of chances. Is this the best one of them on night one? Silver Knot, winner of the Autumn Stakes last time out.
Yeah, he was pretty impressive, wasn't he? And if we look at him from an official ratings point of view, he's got £9 on Victoria Road. Look, there have got to be some other runners in there from the Americans who are nowhere near their full potential. We've got lots of lightly raced runners as far as the home team are concerned who definitely are not at their ceiling as yet. However, Silver Knot, what does he need to be at his absolute best? For me, it's a strong gallop and his ability to pounce and produce that change of gear late on. Charlie Appleby has got no peers as far as the Breeders' Cup is concerned. His record is absolutely impeccable. Numbers-wise, it's crazy, really. You know, if he was part of the home contingent, they'd be talking about him like Flightline. They'd be saying brilliant is his normal as far as the training is concerned. So, yeah, Silver Knot to get it done.
There we are, Silver Knot then in the last on Friday. Let's move on to Saturday's card. Then look at the turf races on Saturday. We start with an absolute cracker, isn't it? It's the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint with 4 places each way on this, which is a nice little bonus because there's plenty of value to be had. But outside of the front two, this is the big talking point of the weekend, perhaps. Golden Pal, we know how good he is around 2 turns stateside against probably the story of the season in Highfield Princess from over these shores.
Yeah, good luck to John Quinn, John Fairley, the whole team. I believe the grandchildren are out there as well. Just a remarkable success story, the way she's gone through the gears. Who would have thought she'd be able to travel into the Nunthorpe like she did last time? It was just absolutely spectacular. But Golden Pal, he's long been a cliff horse for me ever since he got beat as a juvenile over here at the Royal Meeting. Just got out-bobbed on that occasion. You know, he's incredibly tough to get away from. However, I'm going to take away from who I want to win, and it's a fascinating matchup between those two. And I'll go for one who I think at a price is going to give you a really, really good run for your money, and it's Emirati Anna. You remember the run behind Minzal under rocket conditions, really, really fast ground. Well, if it does stay the same, that's pretty much what we are going to be getting. However, were it to change, it's not completely beyond the realms that he'll run a decent race anyway. At around the double digits that I think he is, with Ryan Moore booked as well. He'll have just been able to load up a little bit as far as the fluid is concerned, but he'll still be savage in the saddle. Emirati Anna, around 14, 16, somewhere about there, is a massive win, place and show runner.
Love it, yeah, with extra place as well. Emirati, Anna, a decent end towards the season as well. Move on to the 550. This is the Filly and Mare turf. Again, Europeans are strong hand here, considering Aidan and Joseph O'Brien have got Tuesday and above the curve. But they're playing second and third fiddle to Nashwa. 9.5 furlongs, decent ground. Can she be beaten?
I probably think that she's going to be the banker of the meeting. If I were to choose one, the way that she's been handled with Gosden, I feel that he's always had one eye on the back end. She improved through Goodwood. I think she was a little bit unlucky last time. I was amazed that they went forward with her, but obviously they discussed what they were going to do in the prelims beforehand. And when she kicked under desperate conditions over in France, she still looked the winner until the final 50 yards and just played second fiddle. Better draw on that occasion, and she would have won. She goes back on a quicker surface. She's got Gosden going back home. They've got Holly Doyle on board, who, well, she's already won a French Classic this season. How about a Breeders' Cup success to just bookend what has been a wonderful campaign? And she'll just get that little leg up when she flies back home to Japan, of course, for that winter stint with her husband, Tom Marquand, at the moment. So Nashwa, could she be the banker? Let's hope so.
Yeah, I think she's got massive claims, but she could well be people's idea of the European banker. If it's not her, it might be for some people. Modern Games in the Breeders' Cup Mile, that comes along at 7:10. It's got such a good record on decent ground, including a couple of wins stateside as well. The market has Kinross as the main danger. Obviously, we think of him as more of a softer ground runner, but the Americans can't be discounted in here as well. Again, this is a real good clash. Lots of strong European runners taking on the home team.
I would love it to be one of ours. I really would. We know all about Order of Australia and what he's done. Dream Loper's in off the back of her best effort. She's probably the one who's going to fly under the radar as far as our team are concerned. And she's ended up with an inside sore. Kinross, listening to what they were saying, it's more, they were saying not so much ground dependent. Trip wise, it's better for him if it's a little bit quicker over this sort of distance. I don't know. It's very, very hard, isn't it? I've got one slight concern. When I saw Modern Games win 2 starts ago, he just looked a little bit scratchy, a little bit as if that, he'd had quite a bit of racing. He then came out, he ran a decent race when he was second. And look, it's a very good run. We know all about what he's done when he managed to win over at Delmar. I just get the feeling that sometimes, when you bend the barrel, it doesn't always come back the same. And he just gives me that sort of feel when I look at him out on the track. I'm gonna require some help as far as the home contingent are concerned. And thankfully, we've got Paul to give us a real good steer here, because I won't be saying that he can't win. But I think that he's a bit of a false, weak favourite off the back of what I've seen the last couple of times.
No, I'll get Paul's thoughts on that then in a short while. I mean, are you happy to take him on? Is there anything you think at a price from the home team? Order Australia, you mentioned him. He won it last year, of course. And Kinross, did you mention the ground? Does he need the soft ground? Do you think he'll be okay on the surface?
Yeah, I think he'll be absolutely fine. I don't see it being a problem. And the thing for him is that wide store position. He's quite racy over 7 furlongs. The quick gate speed is going to be ideal for him. He should be able to get a spot, but it's never easy from there. It is more luck than judgment. You've got a brilliant rider on your side. And look, if there was one that I thought was the wrong price, it's possibly Ivor. But I'm not convinced either way. It's one of those races. I just got a horrible feeling. I hope I'm wrong. That Modern News is just had one race too many, possibly. So Ivor's a massive price each way. Who goes in there with Castellano on board?
I'll get Paul's thoughts on that then, see if he can keep the mile at home. The one race that usually makes its way over the Atlantic, though, Jason, is the turf. The penultimate race at 8:40, and it could be a good weekend, as I say, for Charlie Appleby. He's got 2 bites of the cherry here and 2 very solid candidates indeed in Nation's Pride and Rebels Romance.
Yeah, look, it's what a strong hand to have. If we were going strictly on the ratings, Nation's Pride, even though he absolutely ripped apart the field last time, Vittori went over for a little steering job, didn't he? For a 6 1/4 length success last time. Ratings-wise, Mishriff has to be a major player. Now, it was all the talk. has he lost his will? Has he lost that little natural gate speed, and then he starts to be a bit keen? I just have a sneaking feeling that Mishriff, even though they've got him down as not particularly liking rattling quick conditions, it's maybe his final run of his campaign. I think he's been underestimated so far this season. I think he was unlucky not to win as far as Sandown was concerned in the Eclipse. Dettori on board as well. It's going to be a hell of a race. You know, Broome's going to be gunning for home. Stone Age has never quite lived up to that early Derby candidate runner that he wanted to be, if you like. And Nation's Pride will be thrusting fast and late. But I just feel Dettori is going to have Nation's Pride in his sights off that home turn, and it'll be a great matchup. I think he might get him.
Yeah, way to sign off. I think it's going to be his career as well as his final run. Blinkers for the first time. What a way to sign off, and what a money spinner he has been. I think you did mention Nashwa as the banker. Is that what you're going with as your best bet over the card?
Yeah, look, Nashwa, I think that she's incredibly strong. I do think that Emirati Anna is the wrong price. We have not anyway seen his full potential as yet, and I just think that a switch of rider can often spark them up. You know, Kevin Ryan's got a pretty good record with limited runners as far as the meeting is concerned, and everybody is going to match. Everybody's going to be looking at Golden Pal and Highfield Princess. So look, that is a mouth-watering race. As of course the classic is Flightline. What can he do? When you talk about super sires over here, and we've had the Galileos and all them wonderful bloodlines, you know, Flightline by Tappet, and he has just got that wow factor. You know, brilliant is his normal. Can he get it done? The only thing that has never happened, and please ask Paul, I'm sure when you have a chat with him, he's as yet never to get any dirt kicked in his face whatsoever. Will he be just too good in a pretty small field for the big one? But there's a bit of pace in there as well. If he gets some in his face, he got himself in a pocket. I don't know, maybe I'm clutching at straws thinking that he can get beat. But Nashwa should get the job done, wouldn't it? Holly Doyle, can her star get any higher?
Yeah, great to hear from Jason. So 2 questions that he's giving you there, Paul. First of all, Flightline, facing the kickback. How will he cope with that? What's your take?
Interesting point what Jason makes. He did sit second in his previous race in New York and stalked the pace. Must have got a little bit of kickback there. But it is an interesting point because he's drawn relatively on the inside. And I've watched his last 5 or 6 workouts and he's worked alone. John Sadler's not put a work partner in and they're working behind to see how he faces the kickback. It is an imponderable.
It is, and he mentioned the mile as well. Now, usually this comes back over on these shores. Order of Australia won it last year, he's in there. He thought Modern Games may be worth taking on. He put up Ivor as a big price each way. You're also thinking about that, but is there anything else?
Yeah, I thought Modern Games was the best of the Europeans. I'm slightly worried what Jason said about his scratchy accent. I do like Ivor. I think he'll be the fast finisher of the mile. Then you go the other way, and that's the smooth like straight. He made all until late on in the mile last year. He often does get caught late. If you want the sort of the tortoise and the hare situation, you've got the best of the two. And I want to throw in one more. You can ask you about this one. Malavaf, not to be confused with the Fletcher horse who runs in the Distaff, the French trained one. She ran really well at the Breeders' Cup last year. She's only 2 lengths behind Kinross.
In the Prix de la Forêt.
And I think the step up to the mile will suit her better than maybe Kinross. I thought she might go well at a price. Yeah. So 3 big prices there to look at if you don't want to be boring and go with all the favourites.
Yeah, she's interesting. I mean, all the form's come on soft ground in France, but you say it was quick ground last year and she was second here as well. Look, is there anything else in the turf races? I know the Platinum Queen, many people think they'll get the Europeans off to a fly, but that stall 12 is quite a burden to overcome.
It is. It can't be stressed enough. If the nearest thing we've got to American turf track is probably Chester. How much the draw matters at Chester, so why do they think it doesn't matter at Keeneland? I wouldn't fancy the Platinum Queen. Admittedly, she has drifted to a sort of decent price now, hasn't she? But I think Love reigns. Both Ward's turf sprinters have won over course and distance. He's based at Keeneland, so there's no travelling. He works there every day. Love reigns, I think. Paul mentioned him before, the old man Rickers. He fancies Love reigns. The old man Quiggers fancies Love reigns. I think Golden Pal is the one to catch and beat in the turf sprint.
So 1 for Wesley Ward, 1 against Wesley Ward.
No, I think both.
Oh, he's one to beat, and so both for Wesley Ward.
I think both of them. I do fancy Wesley's other runner in the turf sprint. If you're looking for an each way price, Arrest Me Red. Got a poor ride from Irad Daltiz last time. I'm not particularly a jockey backer. Just sat too far off the pace at Kentucky Downs. He's a notch below the best of the Americans. But the Lieutenant Dan's was second last year. He was a notch below. So I can see him running into a place there. I think that might be an extra place race as well. So.
Well, it is. Well, you mentioned Rickerby, you mentioned extra places. Let's have a look then at exactly what we have got extra places on this year's Breeders' Cup.
Now, of course, it's the Breeders' Cup will want a bit of value. I love the Breeders' Cup because you can get some big price winners, and I love the each way bets. We've got some extra place races at this year's Breeders' Cup. We're going to start with the 7 o'clock, of course, the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf Sprint, where the Platinum Queen and Dramatise for Teen Hoop, alongside the other 3 European entries, will be very, very popular indeed. And also, as well, we've got 4 places at 50 of the odds on the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies and the Juvenile Fillies Turf. The Grade 1 will all Grade 1s. Moving on to Saturday. More value, another 4 places at 50 the odds. We're going to do it on the Breeders' Cup Fillies and Mares. That's sure for 350. Of course, Highfield Princess, the big hope in the Breeders' Cup Turf Sprint. We're going to have 4 places on that race as well. And we're going to finish off with the Breeders' Cup Mile, which is due off at 7:10. Extra place races, fantastic 2 nights of international world-class racing. Enjoy this year's Breeders' Cup.
Cheers, Paul. Yeah, let's get on to the dirt races then with Paul. He is Sky Sports' US racing expert, so he should be coming to his own right now. Let's talk about no pressure. The 7:40 then. This is the Juveniles on Friday night, as Paul said earlier, and then obviously all the older runners on the Saturday night. The Juvenile Fillies is the first dirt race off at 7:14. It looks wide open, doesn't it? 14 runners. I'm with chocolate gelato for obvious reasons. I like a bit of chocolate ice cream, but it looks wide open, this one. For me, as an outsider, what are your professional thoughts?
As a so-called insider, it's certainly wide open. Your chocolate gelato comes out of the Frisettes in New York. That's often one of the big Grade 1 trials for this. I slightly prefer the races, the fillies that come out of the Alcibiades, which is a race run over course and distance, a Grade 1 prep. I'd say Grade 1 prep for the Breeders' Cup. 3 of them ran in it: Wonder Wheel, Chop Chop and Raging Sea. If you watch the race, Chop Chop missed the break by about 3 or 4 lengths, was behind the 8 ball because it didn't go that fast, and finished to a plumb, only got beat that much. I think with more luck in running, Joe Rosario will beat them other 2, and I think that Chop Chop is a decent price, I think, Chop Chop. If you want a bigger price, Grand Love for Steve Asmussen. He won this race last year with Echo Zulu. She fell in a hole a bit second time out in the stakes race at Churchill the last time out. I think she can improve her experience. If she got an easy lead, I'd be worried about Grand Love. But I'm all about Chop Chop.
Chop Chop, you get the action as well. Right, 9 o'clock then is the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. And well, Bob Baffert's won 2 of the last 4 runnings. The controversial Bob Baffert. He's got Cave Rock and National Treasure in here, but obviously all the talk and all the eyes are on Cave Rock. I mean, are people thinking about next year's Kentucky Derby for him already, as impressive as he's been in his 3 starts?
I think there's 2 potential superstars at the Breeders' Cup. There is an argument to say Flightline is already a superstar. There is a chance this Cave Rock is another. 3 for 3 lifetime, 2 Grade 1 victories in impressive manner. Beat stable companion National Treasure last time by 5 lengths. Did have it easy on the lead, but powered away in the straight. Looks a real horse. I think we've got to talk about the elephant in the room before we go any further, and that's Bob Baffert. He is a floater that won't go down the toilet. He's been banned a few times. I think the American authorities are really frightened of putting him away. He threatens them with legal action. He's back. From a punting point of view, we're not the morality police as punters. All we have to do is look at the form book. The fact is, on form, Cave Rock is a decent horse. Let the authorities sort out the rest of it, but it does leave a bad taste in the mouth. I think there'll be a few boos if Cave Rock wins the race. But he is by far the best. National Treasure, only its second race, second time over a distance of ground. That might improve for Judd Monty, but the likely 2 to chase him home are probably Blazing Sevens. He's worked really well since he ran in New York for Chad Brown, and Forte, who has experience over course and distance for Todd Pletcher, came from off the pace. I could see him running on. It's just a question how you play the race. Cave Rock, it's probably slight odds on, or do you go for Blazing Sevens or Forte each way?
Cool, love it. Is that Judd Monty a subsidiary of Del Monte? Right, let's move on to Saturday's action. Then the 350. It's great times, isn't it, for European audience? 350, the final race, the Classic at 9:40. So really, I'm looking forward to this. Paul Rickerby looking forward. He said he loves the Breeders' Cup. Well, he has done since 2020, since he was there with glass slippers, funnily enough. Right, Filly and Mare Sprint kicks us off. Chad Brown, of course, plenty of Breeders' Cup winners on his CV. This Goodnight Olive, unbeaten in the last one, unbeaten in her 5. Ira Ortiz Jr. on board. The likely favourite, is that the one to beat, or is there a bit of value elsewhere?
It's a wide open renewal, I must admit. To say Goodnight Olive got beaten at debuts, won 5 straight, graduated to Stakes Company last time at Grade 1 at Saratoga over this distance. She's definitely probably one, but I think there won't be much value in the market with her. You got to mention last year's winner, CC, but she came from behind ridiculous fractions when she won last time. They might not go as fast here. Echo Zulu, who won the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Fillies last year, she made a fine comeback at Churchill Downs. I'd certainly give her a chance. But at the prices, again, probably a double-figure price, Frank's Rockets. 2 starts back, she probably should have beaten Kamari. Kamari, Wes Ward thinks, is good enough to take the boys on in the Breeders' Cup sprints. She'd then beat second races at Charlestown next time, Frank's Rockets. So she's in great nick for Bill Motts. I think she might go well at a decent price. And I want to mention one more if I can. Chain of Love, the Japanese horse. If you look at the form of those races in Dubai, didn't look great. Stayed on 4th behind Switzerland, who wasn't a great horse in America, but didn't seem to face the kitback, was quite deep that day. Got behind over 6 furlongs. She might be running over seven. But I think for me, Frank's Roquette at the prices, and definitely Goodnight Olive. Those who play the forecast, what a little saver. That's the one I'd be frightened of.
I think there's a couple you didn't mention. Do you want to give them a shout out as well? And you covered the whole field. Right, I'll tell you what, I'm going to talk about the turf sprint because I know we've been talking about this for quite a lot. Golden Pal. So that's a race that I think we're going to look at on the turf. Not one, obviously, I'm going to say concentrate on the dirt races for you. But Golden Pal, he says he's going to be tough to catch. He's an absolute beast when it comes to 2-turn sprints, although he has blotted his copybook on these shores.
Yeah, he's probably no good on the straightaway. He's better going round the turn. So I'd no problem with forgiving Golden Power his runs on this part. He's just these 5 and 5.5 furlong rock hard turf tracks. He gets out, and often it's like racing downhill. They don't seem to come back.
Yeah, then let's move on to probably my favourite race name, Big Ass Fans, Dirt Mile, due off at 5 at 10, over the mile, funnily enough. And 2 massive dynasties go head-to-head here. Godolphin with Bill Mott's Cody's Wish and Judmont, then Bob Baffert again, the elephant in the room as you talked about, Laurel River. We've got Cyberknife for Brad Cox, also prominent in the market. Looks to rest between these 3.
That's funny enough, that's my shortlist. You did very well there, Matt. Yeah. First thing to say about this race is that I think the fewer connections will be annoyed that Jack Christopher got scratched from the sprint, because I think one of these few might have took the chance in the sprint, because that's come up really weak and this has come up quite deep of these races. Say Cody's Wish beat Jackie's Warrior, who's favourite for the sprints and pipeline in the Grade 1 4-go. Really progressive 4-year-old. Cyberknife has been running some good horses. Did win the Grade 1 Haskell. And let's mention G Unites. We're going to say Gunnites. Is it Gunnites or G Unite? For Steve Asmussen, really impressive progressive horse. Unproven over 2 turns, been running over 7. I'm going to go for the elephant in the room here. I think Bob Baffert's Laurel River. Another improving 4-year-old. Won a stake at Santa Anita back in the summer, August it was. Grade 2, but 3 winners have come out of that race to frank the form. And I actually do fancy the second to run well in the Breeders' Cup sprint. So I think Uncle Bob, I'll still be booing him.
I was going to say you're going to cheer him home and then boo him when he's past the post.
We're booing the TV, but the fact is, I think Laurel River, at the price, is a wide open race. It's the best one in the dirt mile.
Brilliant. So many emotions in a matter of seconds there if that one wins. Right, let's talk about the Breeders' Cup sprint then. Jackie's Warrior, odds on. Kamari in there for Wesley Ward as well. How do you see this one going?
It could be just Jackie's Warrior goes to the front and improves his position, because he looks like the lone speed in this race. It has come up a weak renewal with the defection of Jack Christopher. So there are a couple of knocks on Jackie's Warrior, although you can't argue when he's been beaten this season. 7 furlongs is probably slightly further, but he was fancied for this race last. In fact, it was odds on for this race last year, a deeper renewal, but was involved in a speed duel, and it sort of the pace melted. I'm hoping that Laurel River runs well in the dirt mile, because I'm going to go for this American Theorem at a big price. really consistent sprinter in California. Did win a Grade 1 before it came up against Laurel River. And again, it's pretty squarely priced, American Theorem for me. So American Theorem at a big price. Possibly use Jackie's Warrior in the forecast again. I wouldn't want to finish second at a big price and not get a little saver in there.
Yeah, exactly, if it runs down late on. Right, let's move on to the Distaff then, and it's pretty long odds on that Todd Pletcher claims this prize, but with which one? He saddles Nest and Malafat that both head the market.
Yeah, Nest, I think Nest will be favourites, but slightly more progressive profile, a year younger. Both won penalty kicks, prep races in Keeneland and in New York for this, but they have beaten all these fillies and mares during the summer, so it's hard to look against them. I just slightly fancy Nest. I think she's got a bit more tactical speed. Malafat can hit a flat spot in this race last year when he went really fast. She got outpaced, only got beat about a neck or half a length, but you just think Malafat sometimes hits a bit of flat spot. So a bit of a boring selection. I think I'm going to go with Nest here. If the track is playing really fast and speed horses are lasting home, then maybe Society, it's got a little bit to find with the principles. She might last a long way. But I think Nest, I've landed on the Nest, as we say.
There we are then. Right, that's the Distaff or the Fillies Classic. Now it's time for the Classic, the final race of Breeders' Cup 2022 at Keeneland, 9:40 post time. And will we see a race for the ages or a performance from the ages? It's what we're all expecting from Flightline. There's lots of pros, a couple of cons in there when you're taking such a short price. You know, he's got some talented horses in opposition. We mentioned the kickback potentially a little earlier. The trainer's poor record at this meet as well. But he's a freak, isn't he?
He looks like a freak. And it says it all. He ran 150, don't bore people with times, but in dirt races, it's really important. 159 in change for a mile and a quarter is fast. And if I just give you, he would have won every other previous renewing of the Breeders' Cup Classic that has gone before off that, and with a bit of spare. And I'll give you the run of the name. Ali Sheba, Sunday Silence, Cigar, American Pharaoh, Arrogate. He'd have put more to the sword off that race. So he is probably a beast. From a betting point of view, when you're going to have to stake more than you're going to win, you've got to think twice about it. The possibility of the kickback. Sadler, although he's been a great trainer in Southern California, hasn't done well at the big show very often. He's got one winner, I think it was Accelerate, won the Classic 2018. They're the one things I've been into. They probably can make money on the race. Depends what you do with Life is Good, who is the second best horse on paper. He's probably going to make the running. And it depends what you do with him. If he's ridden to beat Flightline, which I presume he is, he's not like a pacemaker, does he run himself into the ground? He's definitely got a question over this 10 furlong distance. The only time he tried it was in Dubai. It was a short price favourite and he faded weakly. I won't be using Life is Good in my bets. I say I'm frightened, obviously, of Flightline. We all are. The two that appeal for me are Tiber for Bob Baffert. Don't like saying it again.
Cheering and then booing again.
And Epicenter. I say both of these are 3-year-olds. Epicenter has danced every dance this year. Finally won a big one. Probably might go off second favourite this. Tiber, who's had some training issues for Bob Baffert, did win the PA Derby, the Pennsylvania Derby, last time out. Beat a good field there as well. Zandon and Cyberknife, who runs early on the card. So that also has been a productive leg with 2 next time out winners. So a big price I'll be finding somewhere for Tabor on my ticket. Again, probably with Flightline to be second. I'll probably use Epicenter in the TriCast.
There we are then, away to play in the Classic. Right, so that's wrapped up. Thanks to Jason and to Paul, of course, going through all those 40 races, and Paul Rickerby. Before I let you go, though, Nashwa was Jason's banker and he wanted Emiratiana as a main play as well in the sprint. What's your best bet on Breeders' Cup weekend?
Friday, I think Wes Ward the double. I think Love Reigns on the Friday, Golden Pal on the Saturday would be the two I'm interested in most. And probably that Laurel River in the dirt mile for Bob Baffert.
Boo.
Boo.
But you'll be cheering if Laurel River goes in. Great stuff. Yeah, looking forward to it. As I said earlier, 14 races, all on ITV, ITV3 and ITV4, all with favourable times for European audiences as well. The Classic, 9:40 p.m. on Saturday. Will we witness something special with Flightline the Freak in the Breeders' Cup Classic? Enjoy the stateside action this weekend.